I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And my friends, my so-called conservative friends, they try all the time to justify this madness. So I pray, oh my God, do I pray that we'll find a way to save us from these fascists. And so I cry sometimes when I look at the news and I hear all the lies and wonder what's the use in trying. It's so a little familiar. I see the whole world goose stepping up in line behind a sexual abusing pathological lie, and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on?
Oh, good morning. This is Craig on KXFM 104.7, and it's a beautiful day in Laguna Beach here. I'm so happy to be here on a little bit of a rainy morning, but it's not going to dampen our spirits here at KXFM. I hope you had a great week. We have a lot to cover today, and have been so looking forward to today in so many ways. I can't describe it. Anyway, before we get into the main feature of our event this morning on KXFM, I just wanted to say thank you for following us. We're here every Sunday at 10 a.m. to noon on Rainbow Radio, and we try to do the best of what we can with regarding programming and music that all has to do with LGBTQ and diversity. And when we say diversity, we mean diversity for everyone, not just LGBTQ, but everyone. That's the secret. Everyone deserves to be honored. Everyone deserves to be who they are and themselves. And that's an important part of what we do here on KXFM. So anyway, I will make a couple of quick announcements before we get into the program. June 1st, as you may well know, is the first day of Pride Month. And in keeping with supporting it, the city, as you may well also know, did a decree or whatever. They, I think it was in 2018, they decided that June, like many other organizations, will be recognized by the city with a proclamation that said it is Heritage and Culture Month and LGBTQ, which has been a big part of Laguna Beach, and it's grassroots for many, many years. And Laguna Beach is, I guess, a wonderful place especially when it comes to equality and LGBTQ. So with that, we have an event planned on June 1st, which is the first day of Pride Month, and that will be at Mozambique, and we will have a Sunday brunch drag bingo with yours truly and Dora, which we're so pleased to have be blessed with Mozambique, because it is a big thing for them to allow us to have one of their rooms and do our own thing in a very favorable manner, I have to say. So thank you for Mozambique, but we will be there. It's a Sunday brunch, so you can have your eggs Benedict if that's what razzes your berries. And you can play bingo and win some fabulous prizes. And when I say fabulous prizes, they are fabulous prizes, like 2-night stays at various hotels, massage and treatments in various spas. There's a little bit of everything that goes on with the bingo, with Pride Bingo. I'm having a little bit of technical problem there, but it'll go away soon. So let's not waste any more time. Recently, we had a Valentine's Day event for the Club Q, which is part of the Susie Q, and it's also part of Laguna Beach Pride. It is endorsed and supported by Laguna Beach Pride, Laguna Beach Pride, and hold on. Maybe that's better. Okay. And we had a lot of guests show up, and one person showed up that I became particularly interested in is Tricia, and she is my guest today. And let's just say, sometimes it's difficult for guests. Say good morning. Oh, wait, let me turn your microphone on. All right, try again.
Good morning.
Wow, there she is. So sometimes it's difficult for guests, I'm speaking kind of generally, Tricia, to espouse all of the things that their notoriety and things that they do. And so I wrote a little piece and I put it in our e-blast, and I want to share it with you because I think it will give you a little insight on our guest this morning and what we have, all the things we need to talk about. But let me preface my guest today and the journey I have had with trans, the trans, I guess, I don't want to say culture. What could I say? The trans community. Yeah. And so I've had guests on, but Tricia has, to me, is by far had a world of experience, and she's here to share some very personal things and some enlightenment and some hope, I think. And that's kind of our theme today. Tricia is a true advocate for healing, community, and transformation. She has dedicated her life to lifting others up, drawing from her own powerful journey through adversity. Okay. With a background in psychology and social psychology, Tricia has had impactful initiatives in nonprofit leadership, helping vulnerable communities stay and find stability and purpose. What is going on? Maybe if I take my glasses off, I'll help. But her story goes beyond titles and credentials, having faced deep personal challenges, including growing up in a dysfunctional home, battling mental health struggles, and ultimately embracing her authentic self through transition. Tricia's resilience is a testament to the power of self-acceptance and empathy. A devoted parent, grandparent, and leader, she continues to inspire change. And that's what I love about her, whether through career development programs, advocacy, or using music as a tool for healing. So that is a little bit about you. So welcome, Tricia. How are you this morning?
Doing well, thank you.
Did you have breakfast?
I didn't yet.
Oh, no. I meant to bring something to nosh on. I always like to do that. It helps the conversation a little bit. Anyway, Tricia is here, and her journey has been long and heartfelt. I know you moved here fairly recently. You started to transition, I believe, in 2018, and then it wasn't long after that. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey here and
my journey to California?
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll just start with that
So you tell me how much you want me to cover about that, but I came to California in November of last year, and there was a medical treatment I was seeking, and that is taken care of. And since I've been here, I decided to stay.
Okay. And there was, you came from Missouri.
Yes.
I'm just going to jump in here because I
have some history
with Missouri, and it's not a very welcoming community with regard. It's a wonderful, beautiful state, but as far as when it comes to religion and nonconformity, when it comes to LGBTQ or trans, it's not easy. And and that's my own personal experience. So I can speak with credibility on that topic. So when you explained that you moved here, I think you mentioned one of the motivations was once you were here, you felt that was a bit more welcoming environment than what you had been experiencing. Is that true?
Very true. There was a stretch of about 2 weeks where it was literally just a 2-week long panic attack that I experienced back in November into early December. And it was because I have a lot in Missouri that I'm leaving behind to be here. I have an amazing career. I have 3 children who are amazing. Granddaughter. I really love what I have there. And I don't feel safe going back. There are,
wow.
Last check, 56 new laws that they're proposing for this year that will more than likely all pass. Requiring, like, defining their limited view of gender, requiring if I want female on my driver's license, I have to sign an affidavit that my chromosomes are XX chromosomes. So there's this thing where some of the laws would define me as being male.
Mm-hmm.
There is another one which I think is really similar to the Tennessee law that attacked drag queens. And this one just attacks anyone that they define as male who performs in front of children. So I play guitar. I sometimes go to an open mic night.
Oh.
If I were to, haven't done that in California yet. Maybe we need to make that happen. But it's a lot of fun. I'm good enough to convince you that I'm pretty good if you don't know better. But that's what I like to say. And I think it's kind of accurate. But no, I'm pretty confident that it's going to become illegal for me to do that if there's someone under 18 in that room. And most of the laws that they're proposing, though, they do target children who happen to be trans. The sports bans, even though there's no evidence suggesting that trans women outperform cis women in sports, especially at that age. Like, there's no evidence. In fact, what I'm reading is that we're just not very good at sports, apparently, is what I'm hearing. But which is fine.
Let me jump in here. I want to, from our listeners' perspective, if you've tuned in this morning to hear Tricia and about trans people, transitions, and all those things, I think I want to roll it back to the basic questions that I had, and I know I didn't realize I was prejudiced, and why would someone, I guess I just want to say, why would someone feel that it's important to have a transition in their life? And I remember thinking probably 3 or 4 years ago when before I had my first guest on Rainbow Radio, that I felt, well, they're doing it for various reasons. I hope they do it for really good reasons. But it never really occurred to me that transitions were really being honest with yourself and being true to yourself and not denying yourself what you really should be entitled and have the freedom to decide. And so I remember thinking, well, some people, I'm going to put this right out here, Tricia. I remember thinking, well, maybe it's all these guys, they discover that they're gay and they don't want to be gay, so they become women so they can pursue men. And I do think there's a lot of misinformation. So before we understand all of the atrocities that are coming towards, I think, this community, and all the hate and all the dysfunction that is compounded with propaganda and BS and lies, before we discuss that, I think it's important that we share with the listeners why someone would want to challenge themselves so severely to make this transition, and why it is so important for that person that they feel they need to do this, because that lends validity to the whole transition, I think, I guess, component or whatever, that lends validity to it, to understand why someone wants. So if you don't mind, explain for the listeners why you feel it so strongly that it's important to, I guess, be honest with yourself. Now that's kind of answering the question in a sort of way, but I think I want to understand more what compels you to that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it's and I think it's really important to say that, you know, there are many trans people in the world, and all of our, you know, there are commonalities, and we're all different. So I don't give myself the right to speak for this is what it is to be trans. I can share some of the commonalities, and I can definitely speak to my experience. And so I identified as female before I understood what sex was. I preferred playing with girls. I liked doing tea parties with stuffed animals in the backyard. So the stereotypically girly things, that's what I was drawn to. And I was constantly redirected. I was given trucks to play with and things like that. And I made that work, but that wasn't my instinct. And I remember, for example, in school one day, I was in middle school, so I didn't know what sex was at this point. But anyway, I was in middle school, and I was holding my books up to my chest like a lot of girls and women will do. And I'd never given any thought to that. I just got made fun of for it. Oh, you hold your books like a girl. And like, oops, I guess I shouldn't do that. And I'd never given it any thought. But after that, I started like watching what boys do and trying to mimic that behavior. It didn't come naturally to me. So that had nothing to do with who I wanted to be romantically involved with. It was just my identity. I remember being very young. I'm going to deviate from your question a tiny bit.
No. This is fascinating.
This is a fun story. But I remember being very young, and we were, my siblings and I were taken for ice skating lessons. We lived in a suburb of Chicago. And so there's a lot of ice skating there because it's wicked cold and a lot of ice. But anyway, we took these ice skating lessons. And those little skater dresses, I wanted to wear one.
Oh, no.
And I just wanted to. They were so cute. And it wasn't about them being sexy. Like for one thing, no, it wasn't that. They were just cute. Like, we were kids. We didn't know what sex was. It wasn't that. I've been told by people that this is all about sex, but it has nothing to do with sex. The dresses were pretty. I wanted to wear one. And the little deviation, there was this little blonde boy, and his name was Johnny. And Johnny came up and grabbed my hand one day. I don't know why he picked me out. Like I have theories, but I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. He just took my hand and like led me around the ice 3 times. And it was magical. It was just beautiful.
How old were you when this? You think?
I was a kid. I was little, like kindergarten, first grade, really little. And
so it was just truly an innocent moment for both of you.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then someone came up and said, "Oh, are you gay?" And so suddenly we thought we had done something wrong. We felt embarrassed, and you know, grew up in a very religious family. I think my mom might have seen or heard about that because we never went ice skating again, at least not for the lessons. But that was a magical moment, and it had nothing to do with sex, nothing. And
well, I had an experience where I had nothing to do with sex. It was just something I wanted, but it's different than yours. But when I was in kindergarten, Mrs. Caldwell was our teacher, and I think she was very wise and knew many things as kindergarten teachers know and understand. And so when it came recess time and all the boys wanted to go out and play outside with all the balls and throw things around and stuff, I had no interest in it, but they had a small kitchen, a playhouse kitchen inside, and the girls all wanted to be in the kitchen. I wanted to be the man in the kitchen, and I wanted to play inside. I didn't want to go outside. It was just not me. And I remember Mrs. Caldwell saying, well, don't you want to go out and play with the boys? I go, no, I want to be in here. And that stuck in my mind, and I didn't know why for many, many years what the message was there. But it wasn't that there was a feminine side in me. I wanted to be the man in the house, which is a bit different than your story. And I think every story is a little different. But I guess the point here is we both share some innocent experiences as children. And I think the multitudes of people innocent and honest as a child. And then somewhere we get subverted and we observe our parents and we observe other kids and we're harassed. And I do remember thinking, well, maybe I need to be different. I need to conform a little bit so that no one gets upset, Yeah. And there starts the path, of not being true. Okay.
You know what I like about your little story, if I can jump in?
Sure.
Is that teacher had the wisdom that you were a boy who wanted to do the quote unquote girl thing. And she saw beyond the stereotypes and the expectations of how boys and girls are supposed to act. And like, I still do some quote unquote boy things. And my friends Christy and Brenda in Rochester, Illinois, they're listening right now, by the way.
Shout out.
Yeah. Anyway, they're awesome. And my ex had inherited a house, and she asked me to live there with our daughter and take care of that house. And it was overgrown, like trees, like incredible amount. So I bought a chainsaw.
Oh my God.
And I learned to use a chainsaw. And I would go out, I would refer to it as chainsawing. I realize it's a noun, not a verb, but it was fun to say chainsawing and get the looks from people. But I was telling Christy and Brenda about this, and Brenda's like, yeah, you're probably out there in a dress. And I was like, actually, yeah. Never thought about it, but I wear dresses. I spent 48 years not being allowed to wear dresses. I'm making up for lost time. But that was actually a fun, true story. but just because I'm feminine and I'm comfortable, like, men are great. I love men. You confuse me, but I think we confuse you too. And that's part of the joy of diversity, right?
Right.
But I connect with women, like, they make sense to me. And when I'm in a room full of cis women and talking about my experience being trans, they usually just say, yeah, welcome. Yeah, I get that,
Oh, wow.
And that's really validating. It really is. It's,
after my first guest, I had, my process of understanding, which I really want to convey today as much as possible, is understanding the power and the need to really be true. And I think that's where we were headed. And I think we got a little bit sidetracked there, but being what compels someone to really be share themselves and be honest with themselves and others is where we're headed.
I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it. I did a pretty good job of pretending to be a man.
For how many years?
48. I mean, some of those I pretended to be a boy, right? But I was 48 when I finally transitioned with my buzz cut at the time. Yeah, I did.
So it wasn't, the point here I see, it wasn't a whim or one day, I think I'm going to be a woman,
It was true torture until I finally did.
Yeah.
It was true torture. So I, like with the church background I have, like, it was a sin. I would go to hell for it.
Oh, yeah.
As a second grader, and this is an important part of your question, but you might need to pull us back in again. I'm just going to warn you.
Okay.
But,
all right.
As a second grader, I felt like a girl inside. I did. But there was no internet. Like I couldn't go online and Google and find the word transgender. Like there was nothing. So as far as I knew, I was the only one who was like this. And I was ashamed and I was disgusted by myself. I was convinced that God hated me because of it.
Well,
And
at the time, it was considered immoral with religion. It was
Yeah.
against the law in many places,
Mhm.
and medically, it was considered an illness.
yes.
And that's what you found out when you didn't have the internet. That's the information you got in libraries and in with newspaper articles or whatever media was available prior to the internet. And that alone is
I actually knew less than that. I
Mhm.
didn't know that medically it was even a thing. I didn't know that it was a thing. I thought it was just me. And I was sure that I was hated. I was sure I was going to hell. So I decided if I became a Catholic priest, and if you jump in with a joke that's more funny or more original than Father Trisha, I'm down for that. But I decided if I became a Catholic priest, maybe God would stop hating me. And I spent 6 years in the Catholic seminary.
But Tricia,
And
don't you think the reason there's such a preponderance of priests and young boys is they've looked to religion because they've been told that what their thoughts are immoral. But if they be celibate, then they'll be okay. Then years later, these urges haven't gone, and they're having a difficult time being celibate. And I mean, that's a gross assumption and a stereotype, but I do think that there is some component to that where and it's tragic.
I'm not going to pretend to know why, the why behind that. I will tell you there were a lot of gay men, a lot of delightful, wonderful gay men. And
in religion, in the seminary.
Two of my good friends from back home, we almost crossed paths in the seminary while all three of us were in the closet. And all right, since this is your rabbit trail that I'm going down,
okay,
I've got to tell this story.
Okay.
So I was in the college seminary program, and it was a religious order, and there was a priest who was like in charge of the order, and he was this old, very conservative man who grew up in rural Missouri. And we're just going to say he was not an open-minded person. And then we had this young man, Father Milton. Father Milton, he had been ordained for like 2 or 3 years, and he was openly gay. He did agree to live a celibate life, which I think is really tragic, but he was openly gay, and he was ordained, and he was delightful. He was such a friendly, fun human being. And there was a group of maybe 10 of us down there waiting for dinner, and Milton is just entertaining because that's what he does. I think he's still around. I'd love to catch up with him again. But the older priest jumps in and he says, well, I'm just an old farm boy. I don't understand this gay thing. And if you have a censor button, get it ready. I don't think you're going to need it. But Milton doesn't miss a beat. Oh, I've had plenty of farm boys.
That must have shocked the hell out of him.
He turned purple and he got really quiet.
The reality. Oh my. Well, bless Milton.
Oh, he was a delightful man. I'm sure he still is. But yeah,
that would be a good short Instagram. You should do a short Instagram.
That would be.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun.
Set it up and just,
let's do that.
Yeah. Oh, I've had many farm boys.
Oh my God, it was absolute poetically just beautiful. It really was. Father Milton, wherever you are, I love you. But yeah. So anyway, we were talking about, though, this isn't just some kind of whim.
Right. I want to get back to
as a second grader. I felt so much shame about what I've always been inside that I thought I had to become a priest so that God would stop hating me.
Yeah.
That is the fruit of bigotry, and that is the root of most religion.
Wow.
That is. And so I quit the seminary, and I was seeing a therapist at the time. And this is a theme that comes up again, but we talked about it a little bit, and he just kind of didn't talk about it. Like, I went 3 times a week for several years. That was expensive. But anyway, 3 times.
Yeah.
And we maybe talked about it a dozen times, and he would be like, well, you just need to hang out with men who validate your strength. And I really tried doing that. And I did enjoy hanging out with those men, and we did some fun things, but not that fun. But we did some fun things.
Like the farm boy things?
I wasn't going there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm down. No, but no, I wasn't going there. But no, just rehabbing a house.
Yeah.
I started a construction. I did all these like masculine things because that was supposed to fix me, because as if I was broken, right? But I married a woman, and she beautiful woman, and we had 3 children, and we're friends now, and you could make a really good sitcom out of our world.
Well,
but
I have a dear friend who was married, and he was gay, but he denied it. But then, and it's not unusual when they separate, because they get together because they're good friends, and the friendship outlasts the love or the whatever else was there. And to this day, his best friend is his ex-wife. And I think that happens more often than we realize,
Yeah. So
Anyway.
There were several times when we were still together, she would be like, you would be a great friend, and you are a terrible husband.
See, to my point.
And that is your point. She was right. We were good friends.
Yeah.
And, and there's still some awkwardness in our relationship, but we get along. And, but anyway, so we were together for 17 years, and she believed I didn't love her. And I did. I still do, but not romantically, because I couldn't. I wasn't wired to do that. I wasn't wired to fill the role in her life that she wanted me to fill. And in fairness to her, the role in her life that I said I would fill when we got married, because I couldn't accept myself. So, she got dragged into that pain. But I worked really hard to not be trans. And there is a stretch in our marriage of, I'm going to guess it's about 5 years, where I would, try to do, like, we had a car that spun a bearing. Okay. So what this means.
I know what a spun bearing is. Okay.
So basically a piston rod ended up welding itself to the crankshaft inside the engine and then breaking itself free. And I got on Google, and first of all, I just got under the car and I started taking things apart until I got the engine out. I got on Google. I learned how the 7 AEF whatever engine in a 95 Corolla, I forget the exact, but I rebuilt that engine and put it in there. There was a point. Why did I start telling you about building engines? Because I was so busy trying to play that role of the husband and I couldn't, but I would do these things that are stereotypically masculine. I started a construction company. We did high-end wood flooring, for like baseball players and people like that in St. Louis. And I had this big 3/4 ton Ford van full of $30,000 or $40,000 worth of equipment that it took to do this wood flooring. And I would have these giant heavy duty trash bags full of really cute skirts and dresses and outfits and things that I had to keep hidden. And I hated myself for doing it. I hated myself for lying. I hated myself for being female. I did. Like being a female who looks like a man, a female who's supposed to be a man. I hate the self-hatred was profound. I still fight with it sometimes, and I have learned to I do really like myself, I promise. But I really fought with that. And I'm exhausting sometimes. I will warn you that I exhaust I exhaust myself sometimes. You don't know me that well yet. But anyway, it was such an extravagant lie trying to be a man. And
so at 42, right, you decided to face your reality, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
I transitioned at 48.
48, okay.
And now before that, from around 40 until 48, it was this just battle trying to, like, I'd buy all these cute clothes so that I could feel like comfortable as me, even though I would have to hide in the bathroom to wear them or in the basement when no one's home. At least I could have that moment of, oh God, I don't have to act like a man right now. And so fast forward to 2015. So I guess I would have been 45-ish. And I was seeing this therapist, and she diagnosed me with PTSD, and by and by was probably the worst therapist I've ever gone to. The thing she taught me was this thing called box breathing. And you take the deep breath, you hold it, and then you release slowly. Like, that was literally the only thing we would work on for several months. And so I was starting to think, okay, maybe like there are therapists who can teach me 2 skills. But one day she had a moment of greatness, and I was telling her about hiding the clothes from my wife and all the things. And she just looked at me point blank, I can't help you. I was like, what? What do you mean you can't help me? Like, I'm paying you. You're supposed to help me. And I said, why? And she said, because you will not accept and embrace who you are. And that was when I knew, like, I had to transition. It still took me 2.5 or 3 years to actually do it.
Was brutally honest with you then.
Brutally honest. And I am really grateful to her. I probably shouldn't have slammed her. That probably was rude of me. But she had that moment of greatness that I needed. And I'm grateful to her for that. I really am. And
well, I looking at what you've expressed today with regards to your getting to where you transition, it seems to me that you said, okay, I'm going to try every damn thing I can to do to make this work, whether it was joining the church, whether it was seeing therapists, whether it was trying to embrace your inner side. You tried everything. And it came down to this moment where you got the message from the worst therapist you'd ever seen.
But it was worth all the breathing, which is an important skill, but it also doesn't fix trauma. It helps you cope with it. But those are different things. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to tell you another little story about just how intense this was. This wasn't a whim. While I was driving that van with my big tools and my cute skirts and all those things hidden away in the van, it was a big spiritual struggle for me too. And I'm still, spirituality and what I believe, I'm still trying to figure that out. But one of the big obstacles is I wanted to keep church in my life, and I wanted to keep religion in my life at the time. And I remember driving that van with all the tools, and it was just I was just fighting this in my head. Like, I don't understand why I'm like this. I don't understand why God made me like this. I don't understand why God hates me. And this was a big heavy duty truck. And I just started crying, like water not flowing down my cheeks. It was like squirting out of my eyes. It was intense cry. And I screamed at the top of my lungs, why do you hate me? This isn't my fault. And while doing that, I punched with both hands. I punched down on the steering wheel. And like this, what is this part of your hand? I don't know. But this outer edge of my hand, I guess we'll call it that, the opposite side of the thumb on my hand, if you're trying to picture this, I pounded that steering wheel so hard that I bent the steering wheel. And I bruised my hand. I'm lucky I didn't break a bone, but I bruised them really bad. Like, it's still like telling that story. It's like, ooh, no. But I said, this isn't my fault. Why do you hate me? As I cried and pounded that steering wheel. And God doesn't like talk to me. I don't have visions. We're not going anywhere like that. I don't pretend to know who God is or exactly what God is. I just believe there's something bigger than me. And I believe whoever that is, I believe that that's a loving being. That's my belief. And it's sometimes hard to hold that because but anyway, rabbit trail. I felt a voice inside me. I didn't hear it. I just felt it, if that makes any sense. And the voice was, why are you telling me this? And when I say it sounds like I'm being snarky, it wasn't a snarky voice at all. I was answered with a question because I needed to answer the question. And the reason I was telling God that wasn't because God needed to know. It was because I needed to know. I needed to stop hating me. That's what I was being told by whoever was speaking to me in that moment. Trisha, I don't hate you. You are hating yourself. And that was huge. That was another huge moment. I think that was before the I can't help you, nobody can help you comment. It had to be before, but sometimes the timeline gets fuzzy.
That's interesting. I think whether you're gay or whether you're out of the norm, you learn to hate yourself because what it brings to your life. And it's an easy thing to do, to hate yourself as a response, I think. And after a while, you don't realize how much of you is being hateful. I know for me, that's the way I felt. I hated myself for who I was, and I'll tell a pivotal moment in my life was at 14 when I was very unhappy and in a very conservative, unfriendly community, as far as I was concerned. And I'd been hiding, and I realized that I was gay, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I went. My mother was, something's wrong with Craig, and she told my older brother to go see if he could figure it out. And I just left. I ran out of the house, and my dad's Dodge truck was in the driveway, and I thought, I'm going to get in the truck and lock the doors so no one can talk to me. And I just, like you, in the truck, crying my eyes out. And as I'm doing it, I'll never forget, my right hand slid down under the seat, and I felt something cold and metal, and it was my dad's .22 pistol, and it was loaded. And I thought for a brief moment that, well, this is meant to be, it's something that is there. And so I continued to cry, and then I started thinking, well, I'll never know the rest of the story. I'll never know what happens. And I thought, I'd rather know what happens than not.
Yeah.
And I didn't respond to it. But in that process, I think you ask yourself those questions, and then if you're fortunate, then you realize that how do I want to say that? You realize that you're going to accept yourself on some level because that's the way it is. And so I think for me, I accepted that who I was, but I wasn't going to talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
But I accepted it, that it wasn't the end, And so the event for me meant that I could move on. And unfortunately, I think for so many, that's not something that happens,
Yeah.
Especially if there's alcohol involved and and other things. I do have a very close therapist friend who talked about motorcycles, and that for many, she felt those motorcycle accidents were deliberate. as a way to end one's life,
Mhm.
kind of honorably if they were dealing with those demons. And I never thought about that. And I thought, oh my God. So we'll never know. But I guess where I'm.
In my work,
Mhm.
I've had 2 transgender young people end their lives by suicide in the past 3 years.
Oh,
Um, it's a big deal. And
Tricia, I also think so.
Um,
We never know how many are doing this.
mhm.
I don't know how many you say, well, I don't know why this young man committed suicide. The family just doesn't understand what. And that's the first thing that comes to my mind. They're not happy with themselves. They feel that they can't be who they are, and it's not worth the struggle, And, but again, I think those numbers are terribly underreported. And in many cases, we'll never know,
I want to share a couple things about that.
Sure.
First of all, we talked about why did I come to California? That is why I'm here, is dealing with suicidality.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I want to tell you about my granddaughter. And she is 22 months of just pure beauty and joy.
Wow.
And I chose to stay alive. And since I made that choice, this little 22-month-old knows how to FaceTime me now. I had to shut my phone off so that a 22-month-old wouldn't FaceTime me in the middle of this program. Okay.
I love
And it is pure joy. And you read, I shared with you about that struggle, and I don't think we should really go into that here.
Right.
What I do think we should go into is, yes, I have fought that fight, and I am still here, and we are having this conversation,
Yep.
and this is delightful. And I am so glad to be alive today. I am so lucky and grateful for it. And I'm not going to, I'm just, because people are struggling with that.
Yeah.
And feelings are powerful and they feel like they're permanent. But you know what? They're not. They're not permanent. And there is a national crisis hotline. It's 988, and people can call that and get help.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Well,
but
I think once you decide that life is the choice that you want, and I think I did that. And I remember years later, I'm in my first relationship with someone, and a nice young man, Dana, I lived in Portland, Oregon at the time. And I remember we'd been out and we came back to the house and we're sitting in the car, and I'm looking over there, and he has been a heroin addict. He's had all these horrible things in a dysfunctional, hateful family, yada, yada, yada. And he's sitting there crying, just bawling like a baby. I said, Dana, what's wrong? And he says, I just can't believe you. You feel that no matter what, things will go on and things will be good, and you don't question it. And it's scary, but it's wonderful at the same time. And it was the highest compliment I think I felt, because I felt like I'm just me. I wasn't doing anything exceptional, but I felt that everyone was deserving, and everyone was honorable. And I don't know, it shocked me, but I do think that a lot of people, and praise myself, praise others that go through that step, and they realize that they're making the right choice to be here, and the right choice to embrace life, and for whatever it is, whatever it's worth. It's an adventure, I mean, it's an adventure. It's I don't know what else to say.
It is. And sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes we get discouraged.
And there's no guarantees. There's no warranty. There's nothing. That's probably the beauty of it. It's raw and honest.
It is. And there's that gorgeous ocean 2 blocks away, and there's those mountains, and like like part of the answer for me, and this isn't the whole answer, is there's always going to be some junk, right? There's always going to be something that has the potential to make us miserable, or that really is painful and really is hard. Like that's always going to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go and sit out there and watch those waves. And we can, you know, I'm part of a hiking group that I found on Meetup. And I really think they should call themselves a running group. If any of them are listening, they walk really fast. But anyway, more importantly, like their part of the answer was find the joy, because it's like, yeah, there's hard stuff, but there's also joy. If that makes sense.
Yes.
That's just part of it.
We're going to take a short music break here. I'm here with Trisha O'Brien. I guess you're Irish.
A little bit.
I need to talk about that because Cooley's Irish too. And we're having the most heartfelt, fabulous conversation that I can ever remember in the history of living. And we will be right back on the other side, and I'll tell you more and more. But we've got things we got to take care of here as far as station identification and all those important things. So here we go with this next song. Is a song about being someone's friend. It's called Put Your Head on My Shoulder.
Jason Feddy here on the all-new KXFM, Laguna's community radio. I could not be happier to be back on the team every weekday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. with a new show, The Feddy Factor. Well, I say new, it's pretty much, the same old thing.
Put your head on my shoulder, hold me in your arms, baby. Squeeze me oh so tight, show me that you love me too. Put your lips next to mine, dear. Won't you kiss me once, baby? Just a kiss goodnight, baby. You and I will fall in love. People say love's a game you just can't win. If there's a way, I'll find it someday, and then this fool will rush in. Put your head on my shoulder, whisper in my ear, baby, words I wanna hear. Tell me that you love me too. Put your head on my shoulder, whisper in my ear, baby, words I wanna hear, baby. Put your head on my shoulder.
KXRN LP, Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach. KXFM on 104.7, KXFMradio.org.
Hey there, what's up, Laguna? I'm Janice Murray here with news. Laguna Beach police have arrested 2 suspects regarding 4 commercial burglaries in Laguna Beach and Newport Beach that occurred last December. Charged with burglary and felony vandalism are Jason Townsend, age 47 of Garden Grove, and Julian Kanaehoro, age 42. As of Friday, February 21st, both suspects were being held in the Orange County Jail without bail. Anyone with information about the burglaries is encouraged to call the police, or you may go online anonymously at occrimestoppers.org. And I'm Janice Murray with news on 104.7 KXFM.
Hi, this is KXFM meteorologist Dave Murray. Happy Sunday, everybody, as we kick into the month of March. Unsettled skies are going to be the rule over the next couple of days. It looks like the driest weather is going to be on Tuesday. The wettest will be late Wednesday into Wednesday night. So on this Sunday, mostly cloudy skies. Again, some turbulent looking skies out there from time to time. It's breezy, it's cool, and look for some rain showers from time to time. 58 for the high. Tonight, clouds dominate, a couple of showers from time to time. It's windy overnight, 46 degrees. Monday, partly sunny skies. A couple of showers still lingering first thing in the morning on Monday, but a lot of dry time Monday. Windy and chilly, 56 degrees. And again, increasing rain for late Wednesday night into early Thursday. That's my forecast. I'm meteorologist Dave Murray. Tune in, turn on to KXFM 104.7, Laguna's Community Radio.
Tune in, turn on, and here we are. Craig Cooley here in lovely Laguna Beach. It's a blustery morning, and we're enjoying looking out over the deep blue Pacific Ocean and the white caps on the water, and we can almost see Catalina Island, which is 26 miles to Catalina. There's a song about that if you didn't know. Anyway, I'm here with Tricia O'Brien, and we'll have to ask. And some of the topics we're discussing today are self-discovery and your inner child, the many challenges of transition, mental health and personal growth, prejudice, hatred, and discrimination, the importance of kindness and empathy. I like that one. And the legality of being trans. So that's a lot. That's a lot to chew on, huh, Tricia?
Just a little bit.
So we got some background this last half hour. So like I said, if you're just tuning in, those are some of the subjects we're going to discuss today in our second hour here on the 2nd of March in the year 2025. And so where did we leave off? Well, your move here to California. And how are you liking California so far?
I love it. Absolutely love it. It's I just get in the car.
Yeah.
And I just I want to see those mountains. I just drive until I'm in the mountains.
Yeah.
Or I just like the Pacific Coast. I guess you guys call it PCH, like the PCH.
Yeah.
I love it. I've only explored from, I think, Crystal Cove down to maybe a little south of Laguna Beach.
And that's in your car you're speaking?
Mostly, but sometimes I'll just park it.
Yeah.
And just start walking.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of photography back in the day of like film cameras. I had this Canon AE1. I loved it. I went to Honduras. I went all over the place with that camera. And then just life, I stopped doing it. So I recently bought myself a Nikon with some lenses, and I love it. And I just go places with the camera. So one day I parked. I was looking for a thrift shop. I enjoy thrifting. It's just kind of fun.
Yes.
I think
lots of good wardrobe choices.
Yeah. And lots of bad ones too, but yeah. You gotta look, but,
if you're a little creative, you can make it.
You gotta be creative. and that I am. But anyway, didn't find anything I wanted thrifting, but I just parked the car and it was drizzly night. And I just I'm just going to take this camera out and I'm going to see what I find.
Yeah.
And I walked a couple miles in flip-flops, shorts, and a tank top.
Oh my.
In the rain. But I grew up in Chicago. Okay. Like what you guys call cold. I don't
exactly.
Wearing down jackets when it's 68 degrees doesn't make sense to me yet. People are telling me it will, but it doesn't yet. Anyway.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. But anyway, I just started walking and I ended up at Dana Point Harbor. And the far end of it down where there was a beach there. And I was just walking and it was dark by this point, and I was taking pictures of things and they actually came out pretty nicely. But I remember walking down on this beach, and I think there was like a spillway or something that was letting out, but it was so dark I couldn't really tell what was going on, but I was excited to be by the ocean.
Yeah.
And then it kind of reminded me of like what brought me to California, and I was like, if something happens to me, they're gonna think the worst. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't.
Be careful. Yeah.
And then there was nothing. None of that was happening. But so I then went the other way and ended up in the harbor, and it was kind of like there's a really nice side of Dana Point Harbor, and then there's this other side I found that is less nice. And that's where I was, but it was still interesting, and I was just exploring. And then it's like, if I was a mafia person, I would dump the bodies here. And so I got kind of creeped out, and I quickly got back to an area where it was lit again and walked back to the car. But it's just like there are so many places here to just get out and explore. And we do have beautiful things in Missouri as well. But there's so much more of it here, and it's just everywhere.
It's a nice segue here. Here are some notable LGBTQ events scheduled for the upcoming week from today through April Fool's Day. Oh no! Well, I put April 1st. Yeah. Well, so but today we missed it. But there was a hike to the top of the world. Have you done that here in Laguna Beach?
I have heard about that one. I'm going to do it.
I've done it. I haven't done it lately. I don't think I could do it lately, but I've done it, and it's fabulous. It's a 6-mile challenging hike, and you start in the canyon, and you wind up at the top of the world. You can see east to the mountains, you can see west to the ocean, and it's just a fabulous view. Probably
that sounds amazing.
Probably 45 minutes to an hour up, and then that coming back depends how fast you move. And then there's on March 3rd, which would be tomorrow, and the 10th and the 17th and the 24th, there's Calling All Pickleballer sessions at Seal Beach, organized by the Lesbians of LA and OC. And then March 5th, there's Orange County meeting, a monthly meeting with PFLAG. Lady Gaga album press release, that's coming up. Hike Black Star Canyon, a moderately challenging hike. Where? Silverado Canyon. I'm not sure where that is. Anyway, there's lots going on in Orange County, and actually you can just ask the big brain, and it prints it all up. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And you sent me a couple of photographs of you hiking, I believe, and very outdoors activities, which is you may not be aware, but years ago, the community decided they wanted to save the canyon, and that became a nonprofit organization, which I'm involved in. It's called Laguna Canyon Conservancy. And there's 20,000 acres that were slated for high-rise, mid-level, multi-unit restaurants, everything development. And the community stood up and said, wait, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're going to figure out some way to save this wilderness area, open spaces, as we're supposed to call it now, that's right here. And there's 20,000 acres in the canyon that go out towards the 73, but all of that has been preserved, so we can hike to the top of the world.
I love it.
And it's all right here in Laguna Beach. And now that takes me to a point where you mentioned there must be some difficulty in realizing so much of your family and your granddaughter are back in Missouri, and you're out here, and I understand that. But I moved to Hawaii and left my whole family.
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? Everyone comes to visit.
They've already agreed to come visit once I send them the tickets.
and they don't stay too long. They stay just the right amount of time. And you get your doses of, So it probably will work out, Tricia.
It will. It has to.
And on another, I'm so glad you're here. So I also want to delve into Tricia's education and skill background, because she has done so much for others, as I said early in my presentation. And I have a note here. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Nope, that's not it. Oh, I got it put over here. Career Services Program. Tell us about where its inception and what its accomplishments are. A career services program. That sounds pretty generic right off the bat.
So, what you're looking at, I worked for 2 years at an organization called Doorways, back in St. Louis, where I'm from. I was director of career services there. Doorways started in 1988 in St. Louis as really as a hospice for people who were dying from AIDS. It was a place where people could come to die with dignity.
Yeah.
As medical treatment started becoming available, HIV still can't be, eradicated or totally cured, but it can be fully suppressed. So people who are HIV positive can and do live long and healthy lives, ultimately dying from things that are not HIV related, as long as they get proper care.
I'm going to interject real quick.
Sure.
2 weeks ago, I had a guest here, Dr. Baer, Neil Baer, and he spoke of a injection that you give every 6 months, brings your viral load down to undetectable, and you're symptom-free, healthy, and it's not a worry, and it's available now, and it's something new that's come up.
That's fantastic. I haven't heard of that.
And there's still the number of people that die of AIDS now is about, there'll be during our program worldwide 147 people will die of AIDS, and there's it's about 300,000 a year that die of AIDS still. And it can be eradicated, and it's not necessary. And the problem, all this money flowing around and money saving in Washington, all this other BS that's going on, someone could step forward and say, we're going to get rid of AIDS completely. It'll be gone. It'll be in the history books. But what stands in the way of it is a lot of politics in the local governments, and the stigma still attached to it that money doesn't get to where it's supposed to go, and all the corruption and crap that goes on.
So let me tell you a little about. No, you're good. I'd like to get back to talk more about Doorways.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's an amazing group of people. I love them, and I'm pretty sure that's mutual. But anyway, the career services work. We were a 2-person team. I was the leader of a 2-person team. And I really had 2 roles. One was I was in charge of the career services program at Doorways. So we served people experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity, poverty, disadvantaged people. And my job was to help them find good employment, like meaningful employment, so they can support the lives that they want to live. In that role as director of career services, my 2-person team, we got, you have the numbers in front of you. So if I'm off by 1 or 2, you can jump in with that. 71 people in fiscal year 24, we got 71 people got jobs. That was 71 unique individuals. So there were closer to 94, 95 job placements made. And the reason for that is some people got multiple jobs. Of the ones who got multiple jobs, 13 individuals, they got a job and then they got another job. And people tend to look at that as a bad thing. People look at that, well, they couldn't keep the job. But no, that's not the case. If you look at the numbers, most of the ones who got multiple jobs left a job for a job that paid more.
Okay.
Or a job that paid more with benefits. So I think the average salary increase for people who change jobs, I want to say it's like $3.94 an hour, which can be meaningful money. Like that is meaningful money, especially in St. Louis. It goes a little farther than it does here. So that was our job. And people don't want to spend money on this work. They want to get rid of DEI. All of that nonsense is happening. All right. The argument against like welfare is get a job, right? That's what they say. These people did. They got the jobs. 79% of them stayed 90 days or more on the job. And like 90 days is when we stopped measuring because that's the indicator that they're probably going to do just fine. So they got the jobs, they kept the jobs, and that's what they're being told to do. They do it. And a comment about the DEI thing is, so my other role at Doorways, I was asked to run a program called Employment Alliance, and it ended up being my absolute favorite thing in the world. And my boss at the time, Pat Plumley, if she's listening, she's kind of smirking a little at my expense because she told me to do it and I didn't want to. I was like, we don't need to do this. This has really happened. But it ended up just being this wonderful thing because it was an opportunity to build relationships with employers, other career services programs, and even like the community college. St. Louis Community College would provide all sorts of free training for our people. And through Employment Alliance, 3,000 individuals received assistance finding employment. That was a network that we created at Doorways. We started it. We got a grant. We actually got 2 grants to buy people lunch to come and talk with us. And with $13,000 over 2 years, 3,000 people got assistance finding employment. And
oh my God.
So a big piece of that was creating relationships with employers. Employers would come to us to hire our people. And
employers are right now are struggling for help.
Exactly.
You know?
And they were helping us with our program, right? We were also helping them. And they were not doing us favors to hire our people because like Mercy Health System, they hired 2 from us. One of them, like they're both, I would imagine, still working there. They were, last I heard, back in October. One of them even got promoted within less than a year. And Mercy would call me back and say, Trisha, I need more people from you.
Wow.
There were multiple employers who would call me and say, Trisha, can I have another one like the person you just sent me?
I'm going to jump in here and say you were skilled at removing roadblocks between the unemployed and the employer that needs. And I'm guessing that a certain number of those people that got employment were not skilled. They're skilled at their jobs, but they're not skilled at finding the job.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. Exactly. And it was. And there would be times where a person would maybe their resume doesn't look that good. Maybe there are breaks in employment. And I understand that's going to concern an employer because I don't want to hire you, train you, and have you leave.
Right.
Also, though, it's very common that those breaks in employment are for good reasons. So if you're experiencing homelessness and you're couch surfing, you might wake up one day and you can get to work just fine. But now I have to move across to the other side of the city. And I don't know public transportation in here or in Orange County, but I know like in St. Louis, to get from one side of the city to the other, that can be 2 hours each way on the bus. So it might just be they didn't have secure housing. They had to move to the other side of the city and they just couldn't get to work. So there are good reasons. And in those situations, I would never tell an employer, I need you to hire this person. I'm out of my lane if I do that.
Yeah.
I am not shy at all to go to an employer and say, hey, I have someone and I realize they might not look good on paper. There is a reason for it. They're worth talking to. So removing the barrier, getting their foot in the door to talk to the employers. A big piece of it is teaching them they can do it.
Wow.
There were so many times in that work where I thought I really should be a licensed therapist to do this work because it's teaching people, like people who have been disadvantaged all their lives, who have been living in poverty or who are minorities or whatever, and aren't valued by this society like they should be. They just don't believe that the good things are for them.
Wow.
And the good things can be for them.
When you hate yourself for many decades, it's difficult to feel you have some worth.
Right.
I mean, I want to talk about, I mentioned the Friendship Shelter, which is an organization here in Laguna Beach. And I know you and I had a conversation, but I want to share this with the listeners as well, because I think it's important. There's many conversations about all these homeless people need to get a job. And they've done extensive studies on getting homeless people off the streets and gainfully employed and situated. And the thought had always been, well, find him a job right away. Find him a job,
Mhm.
find him a job. And like you said, you just explained with the challenges of finding a job when you're living homeless, or what we like to say is without housing,
Unhoused or experiencing
yeah,
homelessness. Yeah.
And so when I talked with the Friendship Shelter, I talked to them, the management, about that, and they explained to me that there were extensive studies that the best remedy first is to get them off the street and get them in a home. That once you do that, then employment is a reality for them, and that statistically the success rate is like exponentially much better than just getting them a job, and hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy called housing first. So if I am struggling with addiction,
okay,
and I'm homeless, or I'm experiencing homelessness and I'm struggling with an addiction, and you come to me and say, Trisha, I can help you out with housing if you can pass this drug screen first. What are my odds of getting sober while I'm on the street experiencing homelessness?
Well,
pretty close to zero, right? Because
Right.
getting sober is hard work. Or, Trisha, if you get a job, we can get you housed. Same thing. Okay, if I'm on the street, where am I going to keep appropriate clothing for work? How am I going to stay clean? How am I going to know what time it is to get to work? And if I, so anyway, what you're talking about is housing first. We're going to house you. And this is what Doorways does, by the way. And this is what I did at Covenant House, Missouri. And like there's Covenant House, Los Angeles, and I think there's two of them here, I think. But anyway, this is the philosophy in the programs that are effective. We are going to house you. We're going to make you safe. We're going to address your basic needs. So, that like at Doorways, that's a lot of case management, making sure people are getting those injections or whatever medication they need to suppress the virus. So we're going to take care of these things. And then when you are safe and housed, now you're in a position to work on sobriety if that's an obstacle to employment, or to start looking for the jobs. So yeah, if someone is unhoused, it's completely unrealistic to ask them to get a job at that point. There's no way they can do it.
It just makes perfect sense. I hope that I can't praise the Friendship Shelter enough. I know Laguna Beach Pride, we did some charity work and we donated some money, raised some funds for them, as well as the Laguna Beach Pantry, which provides food at the same time. But my conversation, I just took advantage of the conversation because I was curious. I feel like we're all kind of in this together, and it's important for everyone to understand what's going on, in that regard.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet them. I look forward to that.
Yeah, I would suggest, just our listeners, I suggested that perhaps Tricia and I invite someone from the Friendship Shelter, and we discuss homelessness in Laguna Beach and homelessness in general, and what are some of the best approaches, because it is a huge concern, and housing is so expensive right now. I'm going to step out here and on the housing detail and marketing and stuff like that. There is if you're not aware, there is organizations right now that go around and buy single family homes in vast developments everywhere. They manage and rent them, and they rent them out, at higher rates than what someone who would own it and might rent it out. So what's happening there? It's like a consortia of all investors put all their money in these houses, and they can raise the rent and they can control it. And who loses out is the person who can't. It kills affordable housing, is what it does, and it's a phenomenon that's going on right now. And so while there's a housing shortage, there's also people taking advantages of it because they realize they can buy all these houses and up the rent because they can. And what are you going to do? You're going to live in your car, or are you going to try and pay some rent? Are you going to work 2 jobs just to pay the rent? It just makes no sense. And so along comes the popularity of living van life and all those other things that come into the mix. But my point being is that we've been told that you need to buy marketing, you need the big McMansion, as I call it, and that for a vehicle you need a big SUV that costs $70,000. And there's a whole generation now that says, no, I can do Uber. And I can live in a tiny home. And I think that is a phenomenon that's upon us. And here's an example with the automobile. Toyota came up, which they're very efficient car makers. They came up with a little pickup that they could manufacture and meet all the safety requirements and sell for about $18,000 versus an American-made pickup truck, which start around $40,000 to $60,000 is kind of the norm. But there's all these legislature rules that wouldn't allow it to be imported into the United States because it would disrupt all of these existing manufacturing for trucks. And Ford, that's their number one income is the Ford F-Series. And GM and Chevrolet are always sold more trucks than Ford. That's a misnomer, but because if you combine GMC and Chevrolet trucks, they outsell Ford. But anyway, so they're held out of the market. And so who suffers? It's the people that have to buy a basic truck that's going to cost them $30,000 or $40,000 when they could only pay 18 or 20. So we have been marketed to the bigger houses, the bigger trucks, and I just think there's kind of a rebellion coming. And part of the symptoms of that is homelessness, which is a big issue. Because we suffer from that, so I'm kind of going way out there in left field. I don't know what has to do with everything here today that we're talking about, but there's a lot of cultural changes going on in the world right now.
I hope so.
And I think it's a healthy one. I praise the person that would rather go skiing in Japan, which I never thought you could do, but apparently there's some great skiing in Japan, or explore the castles of Europe. That's my usual response to it. And not worry about making their next mortgage payment on a house they really can't afford, or their lease agreement on a SUV that makes no sense.
Right.
So that's all changing. If you're just tuning in here on a Sunday morning here in Laguna Beach, this is Craig and Rainbow Radio, and my guest is Trisha O'Brien, and we're talking about all the things that matter. Usually it's something that takes me a glass of wine or two to share all the details. But I want to draw back, because I don't think we explored enough, to your skills and your that you've because I think there's some selfishly, I'd like to see you get involved here in Laguna Beach.
That's my goal, and I'd love to,
and be a part of the community. I think that would be really great, because and be an example to other communities that what can be done when we put our heads together on something that is so important and critical to our world. So I want to encourage you. But anyway, so some of your other, and it's not easy often for people to talk about their skills, but some of the with the what is it, open doorways,
yes,
doorways. Who came up with the idea, and how did that evolve?
It was a group of churches, and I'm probably going to lead. I know the United Methodist Church was part of it. The Catholic Church was part of it. Just a group of churches got together and said, these people deserve to die with dignity. And there was no cure then.
Yeah.
A diagnosis meant you were going to die from AIDS. And so that's what they did. But then as treatments improved and people started living, then it became clear that, HIV is still more prevalent among disadvantaged communities, people experiencing homelessness and poverty and things like that. So that's when Doorways started to move into, okay, let's get people housed.
Yeah.
And then they started to figure out, okay, now they're housed and, they're getting, like, Doorways doesn't provide the medical care, but they make sure that the people have access to, and they support them in getting to their appointments and getting the care they need. So, okay, now they're housed. Now we've got the viral load suppressed. And my old boss, Pat Plumley, just was a visionary. She still is. She's just not at Doorways anymore. But she's a visionary, and she would constantly come up with these ideas. So one of her ideas was, well, we need a behavioral health team, which makes perfect sense because a population that has experienced discrimination and poverty and violence is going to have a lot of trauma.
You think?
I think probably maybe a little bit, but yeah. So she went out and she found funding, and they created a behavioral health team. And then she's like, well, and this is the problem I ran into, because I got into all this as a case manager at Covenant House, Missouri. And our goal was, we would call it, quote unquote, discharge to stable housing, which obviously, like, you don't want to have a young person and be in a shelter forever. You want to get them there, and you want to get them into stable housing. And it was like, okay, that's great. I love that. None of them have any money. How are we going to do this? So that brought me towards the career stuff, like let's get them jobs, and then they can afford a place. So that was Pat's vision at Doorways. So she created a small but mighty career services team. And then in February 2023, I got to take the helm of that, and it was an awesome 2 years.
And it's still in operation.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm still in the shadows of it. Yeah, it's still in operation, and it's amazing.
Well, I'll share with you some history here in Laguna Beach, and some of our listeners might not be aware. But there was, when the AIDS was really strong here, and many people were dying. People weren't going out to eat because there was so much phobia and hysteria regarding it. They're an organization which was really there to comfort their passing, essentially. And I know Sarah Kasman, who was one of the people on that group, was called AIDS Services Foundation, ASF, and they raised millions of dollars to help people. And she got involved because she just saw these people dying without anyone to be there. Yeah. And she wanted to be there and help them their last dying days. And it was a horrific time. Mm-hmm. But recently, AIDS Services Foundation has changed, and just kind of like the Doorways program, it's changed, and it's become Radiant Care. And it's focused on care and some mental health things mixed in. And it's a huge organization. And they've discovered that there's a very underserved community when it's LGBTQ plus. Right. When it comes to their medical needs. And up in up in Los Angeles, the LGBTQ Center provides those services similar to what Radiant does. And so both those organizations are experiencing a lot of demand for services because traditionally the medical services are not attuned to the unique needs, perhaps, of the LGBTQ community. Right. And a lot of the community feels much more comfortable dealing with someone who may understand a little bit better the cultural differences in between them all. This is way out in left field, but I did have someone ask, I talked about Mozambique and Sunday brunch, bingo brunch. It is, what date? It is June 1st. So it's a ways away, but it's June 1st, which is the first day of the month of Pride Month. Okay. So I just thought I'd toss that out there. But anyway, so in our own world here, the AIDS Services Foundation, which is Radiant, is a big deal. And they serve the community. It's interesting, the path I see with Doorways. And I like the name Doorways though, because I think the Aid Services changed their name because it was, they didn't want to have the AIDS part of it, although it's because it's their services had changed so much that wasn't their primary focus.
Right.
A big part of it, but it wasn't all that they focus on. So I did have the president of the organization on the program here, and he explained the transitions that they all went through with regard to that.
Yeah.
So okay, so the Doorways was is a model. It sounds like
It is. I know that, and these aren't things I was directly involved in, but I do know that they were like coaching a lot of other organizations throughout the country to do similar work. Doorways is definitely a leader.
Well, and it was this is in where? Which city?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis. Okay.
Yep.
So it's in the Bible buckle.
It is, and it is a delightful group of people. That they're wonderful.
Anyone you
people.
want to shout out to?
Oh gosh, we don't have time.
Okay.
Opal Jones, Jim Timmerberg. I'm gonna forget people. Tammy Laws.
Well, I shouldn't put you on the spot.
Yeah,
then.
They know who they are. Jerry, my scandalous friend Jerry. Yeah, they're Jocelyn Hill. She was my right arm. Amazing people. Yeah.
Looking at what your academic and your employment accomplishments, is there anything that you just really want to share with us that you feel that was a bright day in your world for a good period?
Yeah. I worked with a man at Doorways, and we worked a lot, and he was fighting some demons. He was having a hard time, but he kept up the work. And I came out into the lobby. We called it the Welcome Center. I was out in the Welcome Center, and he was there having a conversation with his therapist. Obviously, they weren't doing therapy in the middle of the Welcome Center, but they were just talking. And she said to him, "Hey, do you want to tell Trisha what you just told me?" And he said, "Absolutely." And he came up to me and he said, "Trisha, so he was referring to some other of our clients, we love working with you because you make us feel like we matter." And that was when I felt like I matter.
Wow.
Because it was so powerful. It's like I've known a lot of joy in my life. I do know a lot of joy in my life, and I have known and do know a lot of pain in my life. Like both of those are very true. And I've struggled to believe that I matter.
Yeah.
So when I learned that I was able to alleviate that burden at least a little bit for another human being who matters very much to me.
Yeah.
Like I would love to walk out of here and see him. "Hey, how are you?" You know, and I think that's pretty unlikely right now. But you know, he does matter to me. You know, I can see his face as I'm speaking. He matters. I hope he's doing well, and I really do. And
that's a wonderful moment.
It really was. Yeah, it really was.
I've said many times, especially during the holiday season here at the program, that just a simple nod to someone, an acknowledgement, a wink, a smile, a hand on a shoulder. Bette Midler sings a song, "Hello in There." It's a very poignant song about people that walk down the street and no one says hello to them. And maybe they're old, maybe they're disabled, maybe they're just different. And you say, "Oh, Denise is calling." So you don't know. I've been told a couple of nods and a couple of good things I've done have saved a few lives. I've been told that by the person that admitted it, and boy, that's a good feeling. Yeah. I do have we're going to take a short music break here. I do have a song up next. It's about making someone happy, and it's an old song. I dug out and dusted off, and I don't know. Here we go.
It's so important to make someone happy.
Oh, I remember that.
Make just one someone happy. Make just one heart-to-heart view. You sing to one smile that cheers you. One face that lights when it nears you. One girl, you're everything. If you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to? Love is the answer. Someone to love is the answer. Once you've found her, build your world around her. Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy. And you will be happy too.
And you will be happy too. And that's an old song, but there's some real truth to that. We're going to be joined here by Denise Penn. If she'll unmute herself on, are you there, Denise?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, we hear you loud and
Hello.
clear.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I tried all the different ways to, get on, and Zoom seemed to be the one that worked the best. So here I am. And, I just wanted to at least call in and say how much I appreciate, Craig, that you're doing this radio show still. And Tricia, it has just been wonderful to have you join us out here in California, and
It's a wonderful
our,
place to be.
and our meetup group. I think that, now politically it's been so, a lot of people express that they're scared and they feel really isolated in California. And it's so inspiring to hear about the work that you did back in Missouri and know that there are great people all over the country who are continuing to care about others and do work for our community.
Wow, I agree.
Thank you.
I feel like I want her to get ingrained into the community and be here forever and ever.
I'm down. I'm right here.
It's like I started this radio program, as Denise knows, but I started it about 7 years ago, and it was kind of like, oh, I don't know. Do I know how to do this? And as my testament to myself is that it's the only job function I've ever shown up early for in my life.
Yeah.
So everything else, I'm always late. But this one, I'm always early, and I don't think I've missed. And so here we are 7 years later.
That's a funny story.
It's been a wonderful journey, and I'm so glad to be a part of the community in that regard and be a voice. The more I share, the more I feel I need to share with what's going on, particularly recently. So I'm glad we're all here and can speak to that. It's kind of frustrating, like, what can you do? And you feel kind of hopeless on so many levels. I do think that art and music, like Bansky and some other artists, can spread a really good statement about the current affairs. And I'm going to play a song, if I can find it. Let's see. That it speaks to well, he wrote it's a classic song, and he wrote it and changed the words, which is okay because it's got a new message. But I let me share with you a little bit about him. His name is Martin Kerr. He's British born, and he's a Canadian-based singer-songwriter, and is known for his heartfelt lyrics and captivating performances, drawing inspiration from everyday life. So he took this song, "What's Going On," and my friend Lynn in the UK alerted me to it, and I listened to it. It's not well published. It's kind of, I guess, kind of a little secret. You've got to listen to the words. I did have to edit out one word because it had to be on the radio, and I'm so proud of Tricia. She hasn't cussed yet. I hope we can get through the rest of them.
I've worked really hard.
She says the truck drivers learned how to cuss from her. Anyway, this song has a message about what's going on, and it's kind of in response to what happened the last couple of days in Washington. But listen to the words. I want to put that, it's a political message, and I do think that we can help, whether it's what Tricia does and contributes with her many years of experience and talent that she's honed, and what we can do with art and music at the same time to send a clear message. It can pull up above into the stratosphere a song, something like this. So let's give it a quick listen here.
4 more years and my mind is still wondering what happened out on Capitol Hill today. At the inauguration, coronation, in the front row, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Musk. Centibillionaires don't give a shit about us, oh no. Just for clarification. So I cry sometimes when I look at the news and I hear all the lies and wonder what's the use in trying. It's all a little familiar. I see the whole world goose stepping up in line behind a sexual abusing pathological lie, and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? My friends, my so-called conservative friends, they try all the time to justify this madness. So I pray, oh my God, do I pray that we'll find a way to save us from these fascists. And so I cry sometimes when I look at the news and I hear all the lies and wonder what's the use in trying. It's so a little familiar. I see the whole world go stepping up in line behind a sexual abusing pathological lie, and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on?
I got that message loud and clear. What is going on? That's a difficult song to listen to, actually, for me anyway. So we have to do what we can do, and I think art is and music is a good way to send a clear message. I think back to Bob Dylan and Arlo Guthrie and some people we've had in the past, Joan Baez, that have sent a clear message, whether it was the war or whatever else is going on. And this young artist, and I just think it's so cool, he's in Canada and he's from the UK. But you can find his song on YouTube if you wanted to share it on your Facebook or social media. His name is Martin Kerr, Kerr, And this title of the song is a classic. It's called "What's Going On." I know Marvin Gaye made it big, and that's what usually pops up if you just put "What's Going On." But if you put his name, Martin Kerr, Kerr, you can find that and share it with the world, as we were today. Well, we've had an incredible journey today. We got about 5 more minutes that we can think about things maybe we haven't touched on, Tricia. I know there's so many things we've kind of discussed on the sidelines, and I hope we haven't left anything out. Can you think of anything that?
Oh my goodness.
As we open it up here a little bit.
Fun story about you said you didn't know how to do this, right? When you started doing the radio show. I was the same way. That this Employment Alliance group that helped 3,000 people get jobs with an investment of $13,500 over 2 years. We helped 3,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And and there was a similar thing going on. I'm like, why? Well, your boss told you to. That was reason enough. And,
yeah.
So we just did it. And a year into this thing, I'm in line at the grocery store. And I am me. I used to be, if you knew me in my college days, I was so timid. I was afraid to speak without someone to speak for me. I am no longer like that.
No, thank goodness.
No. So I just start talking to the random people. I'm that person. If I'm next to you in line, I'll start talking to you. There's a good chance of it. And so I was talking, and she's like, oh, so like, what do you do? And I told her, and she goes, there is this group, and they meet at a place called Doorways, and it's called an Employment Alliance, and you should really get involved in that. And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of it. It's like I didn't want to stop it, but it's like I started it, and it literally just came back to me in just this random place. And it's funny how we think the thing we think we're not wired for, the thing we think we don't know how to do, ends up being like our sweet spot.
Well, it's become a passion for me, and I remember thinking when I was 14 years old and considering some dire measures that I would ever be in a little beach community in Southern California on the air talking about these subjects that we've touched on that are so important. I think in the world, I never thought, and so, but I did. Part of the story that I didn't mention is that I did know I had a passion for playing music and programming music and having some conversation about the music, and that was the doorway, so to speak, that brought me forward, and the rest of the stuff I had to learn. It's just like, okay, I got to do this, and because we don't, here at the studio, most studios have a technician, and the technician runs all the equipment, and the celebrity comes in like Larry King or whoever, and they just sit at the microphone and do their thing. Not here. You run everything, from the cameras to the microphones to the audio to the mixers to the queuing up the music, everything. And I've found that I'm pretty good at multitasking, and I don't have too many train wrecks, and I'm very happy to be here. So
that's awesome.
So that was when I was a kid. I've told this story many times before, but we had an intercom system in the house, and I discovered that I could hook my record player up to the speaker in my bedroom, and I could broadcast my music through the house, and I could make announcements. And I had so much fun with it. And finally, I remember my mom said, could you kind of back off on the music and the intercom after a while? And so I kind of, but that was always there, Tricia.
Yeah.
And so when they approached me because they thought, well, maybe I had a good radio voice. Yes, you too can learn to talk like this in 2 short weeks. Just send $42.95 to Craig W. Cooley. No.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so they decided that I would be. They took a chance on me because I really had never done radio live. I'd emceed events. I'd done a lot of stuff. So life's a journey, right, Tricia? And we need to explore things that bring passion to our world. And if we're among the very fortunate few that have the opportunity to explore their own passion, that's a wonderful thing.
And it's a journey that's worth it.
Yeah, I think your passion is giving hope.
I think so.
I think so. I know so. I don't have to assume so. And there's so many people. The path that you shared with us today, I can't explain how grateful I am for you sharing so much of yourself today. What a wonderful thing to do. What a wonderful gift, to share.
Thank you.
If you can make one little bit of difference in someone's life, maybe someone's listening out there, in the Midwest or somewhere in Ghana, which is in Africa, which I do have listeners in Ghana, and it makes a difference in their world and makes them feel better about who they are and who they feel they should be, rightfully so.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing. And that's hope, right?
It is. Thank you.
I hate to end this, but we're going to work on maybe getting Tricia back and maybe the friendship shelter here at the same time. This song is just, I guess it's out in left field, but it's by El Volo, and it's a love song, and we need love. And these three young gentlemen were so good at singing this song. I just feel it's just something I want to share. El Solo Mi, which is Italian, I believe. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. All my listeners, I dearly appreciate it. Any comments or messages to me, it's Craig at rainbow-radio.org. Craig at rainbow-radio.org. This program is being shared on YouTube, on live on Rainbow Radio, and also will be as a podcast for later listening to on Rainbow Radio's website. That is rainbow-radio.org. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Love to everyone, and especially to Tricia here today. Go out, carpe diem, enjoy the day.
Che bella cosa, una giornata sole, aria serena, dopo una tempesta, bell'aria fresca, pareggiana festa. Che bella cosa, una giornata sole.